Hello. Hi, I'm Dr. Charles Sharma Naidu, and I'm talking to you from Malaysia. I know I'm not seeing you face to face, but I bring you warm greetings from Malaysia, from Taylor's University, and I'm with the Design School. The topic of my presentation today is, let me switch my slide, is gamifying the classroom in the 5G era. The advantages of the gamified teaching and learning blueprint. So this is a very simple presentation, just explaining uh, what I think and my views of the 5G era, and possibly there are possibilities and opportunities for new skills, especially when you gamify your classroom. So what does gamifying classroom really means? I'm going to explain to you. Now, we live in a digital world. We live in a digital world. So digital skills in this case have become an essential skill. It's true, right? All of you are immersed in your teaching and learning, especially you educators. And I'm sure you're doing a very good job adapting to this new normal. Based on the global pandemic, everything has been shifted. There's a big shift. Yeah. So these skills actually facilitate teaching and learning innovation. So I'm sure you have been innovating as well, improvising. I think we all can share the same stories about this. All of us will have very unique perspectives on this. So digital technology becomes a foundation, and our teaching and learning landscape is constantly evolving. Yeah. So one of the biggest economy in this world is innovation and creativity. So with that, you can really embrace new technologies. So what we can see today is the new generation of learners identifying with new immersive technologies. What does it mean? You're talking about gaming technologies as well. I mean, you look at the gaming industry, is huge. Are we getting there? The new immersive technologies are tools like virtual reality, softwares that can create virtual reality applications or augmented reality applications. We call these now extended realities. So there are many things that we never could have imagined happening decades ago. How learning was done was so different, and of course we had a normal classroom face to face, but now everything has been shifted online. But with the shift of technology, of course, with vocational and technical training, also the teaching and learning for technical and vocational education has also shifted. And how do you make sense of this is because of technology. But I'm touching on aspects of gamification. Now I'm going to explain to you shortly about why gamification. And also because the 5G era is playing a very big role in technology. The 5G era has introduced newer infrastructures that will enable smooth connectivity. So there are opportunities for classroom engagement. I'm going to use the word opportunities very often in my presentation. So in this case, new ideas are, of course, essential, and it's always being, brought up. Now, gamification of the new classroom. How does that work in the 5G era? And what has that got to do with the 5G era? To me, everything. For example, with 4G era, there may be some limitations because I wanted to use um, different applications or more detailed, higher resolution images or 3D environments. broadband works, but there are limitations in terms of latency, in terms of the transfer of data online. So there are some limitations to that. But with the new 5G infrastructure, it brings us to a time now where this is becoming essential. Using newer technologies and applying them in gamification is essential. But how do you gamify your class? And I'm just going to explain a little bit about why gamification. This is an example of what my class looked like, because I used a simulator. And when I teach game studies, my students, they join the same session. So we played as like a multiplayer. And in this multiplayer environment, the students manipulate with this whole environment. They can turn it around 360 degrees, and they could manipulate with all the assets. They are able to design the board and so on. But in this little scene here, I play checkers with my students. I play checkers, I play games with them, because I like to balance my class. But for me to come to this far, I have to learn new skills. I have to learn the new skills. I have to learn how the software works. I have to also learn how to create assets. So these are important skills for me. And if it's important for me to be able to create a much better engagement for my students, how much more it is important for all the educators out there. Because newer educators have, they are more enthusiastic and they are more creative. They have bigger ideas. So why not, right? So why gamification? The gaming industry is one of the answers, is one of the reasons, because the gaming industry is so big, and all the new generation of learners are all playing games, and games take a lot of data transfer online. So with broadband, yes, limitations with certain games, because sometimes multiplayer games can be very, very crowded. So sometimes high traffic can create lags. But the 5G infrastructure has the potential of reducing that, or possibly eliminating these limitations. The other possibility is the immersive qualities of social media and web-based technologies. It's one of the other reasons, actually, because the social media is also expanding with more and more people connecting with each other for various reasons. Exchange of photographs, keeping in touch with each other, creating networking, and there's also, like, as educators, we are constantly trying to influence behaviors. And understanding how game works, we realize games can influence the behaviors of students. And it does influence not just the behaviors of students, behaviors of people. If you would like to experiment with that, you can try understanding how the game world works, because reality and game world they may be two different things, but they can relate, because reality may not offer what the game world can offer. So that is why the qualities of the game can be adapted to teaching and learning. And that's the reason why gamification is so special. So gamification of teaching and learning is definitely getting more popular, because you'll start to see the world differently. Because if in reality there's much struggle, but in the game world you can fail in a safe way. You can try and try and try again until you get it. Or in a simulation, you can do that all over again. And it gives opportunities for online training. So gamification gives opportunities for online testing, online prototyping, and the list goes on. There's so many opportunities for this, and because there's so many different ways that an educator can gamify their class. So it's a big shift. The popularity of gamification now is expanding, and gamification is now becoming a very, very big word. But under the word of gamification, there's so many needs and requirements for it to become more effective. And one of these requirements is technology. So that's why the gamification, to me, in my view, is very, very strongly related to 5G technology, because 5G technology can increase the capacity of accessibility. So with this, the teaching and learning landscape will continue to evolve. Possibly you can witness a revolution. Now, playing games and understanding games is also a very important component. And like I said earlier, when you play games, especially popular games, like for example Genshin Impact, and they have game elements that have engagement strategies. So engagement strategies can be adapted into your classroom, and there's no telling how impactful that can be, because your learners are all very different, and all of them are very familiar with different kinds of games, and they love games, and so does adults. People of all ages, they play any kind of game, even if the game is just a simple play to win game, but the difference is this: if you can be a hero in your game, you can be a hero in real life. It gives you hope and confidence, because sometimes real life can be very tough. But how can you take that strategy and adapt it in your teaching and learning? That means making your learning into a game, making your classroom into like a game environment will give them confidence, because they will have opportunities to try and try again. So educators or designers can always get ideas from games. And when you want to get ideas from games, you start to work on new designs, new strategies. And by learning, by taking courses, by learning new skills, you can design new teaching and learning strategies. So you become designers, educators will become designers. In fact, educators are learning designers, right? I'm from the design school, so I strongly believe design is the right word for it. So what happens then? You get to create gamified teaching and learning blueprints. So the blueprint here is like a plan that is a very big plan, and the big plan contains requirements and criteria. And much of this criteria now, in the context of online learning, becomes or includes the need for important technological tools, and of course 5G technology in this context. Because we are talking about 5G era, then the 5G era now becomes very relevant. So how does the blueprint look like? The blueprint will look something like this. These are called frameworks. And educators, of course, start off with a plan, with a blueprint. And with the blueprint, blueprints can look like anything. There are many different kinds. So each educators will have different kinds of blueprint. But much of this blueprint would be able to identify, you will identify aspects. For example, if a blueprint has things like leaderboard, badging, things like game mechanics or immersive dynamics, things like that, then you can see what are the possible direction you can take to create these conditions, create that opportunity, especially if you want to deliver this online. How would you want the students to see this on their screen? And if you were to create a very amazing visual, and if you wanted the students to experience that environment, so 5G era can be an enabler for that. So apply your plan. And how do you do it? It's usually a cyclical process. For example, you start off with your learning outcome, then you create your game blueprint, right? You start to design and learn, create the game blueprint, and then you move on to the gamified teaching and learning map. Then you apply the digital technology, then apply the gamified teaching and learning, and then finally you move on to evaluation and analysis of the findings, because you might have found some strengths and weaknesses. So after you found that, then you improve on it. You go back to the learning outcomes. Did it fulfill the learning outcomes? Yes, no, either way, try again. So that's how educators improve, right? I think some of you are familiar with the cyclical process of doing this. Now, what can 5G offer in the bigger plan of the blueprint? I mean, if you look at the blueprint in a large perspective, what you can see happening, the potentials are increased skill capacity. Increased skill capacity means increased expertise. So the increase of expertise means increased employability. So which means that if your lecturers are skilled and they learn new skills, then their ratings will go up, their value will be up. So which means that you're able to gamify your classroom with this technology, and you're able to demonstrate how this works, then skill capacity can increase. Professional development, educators and students, or educators mainly, can actually conduct training and conduct workshops for learners. Creation of new courses, highly possible, yeah, especially when it comes to technical and vocational training. But here, with the shift of the digital technology, we're looking at learning how to code, learning how to create apps, softwares. You've got skill-based, digital skill-based training. Then you're looking at extended reality technology, the application of augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality. So that is possible, learning these things. Then there's also commercialization, being able to patent prototypes, creating learning and educational apps seamlessly online, or you could actually employ 3D assets into it, and so on. There's also IP, yeah. Then there's also technological enhancements, upgrade of equipment, or acquiring newer equipment. And then there's also hybrid universities. Hybrid universities simply means not just online classrooms, but we're looking at face-to-face and online at the same time. So what about research output? Yes, opportunities to publish your findings, experiment, explore new approaches. And does the list continue? Yes. And there's so much more that you can put in this list. And in my view, because I use gamification a lot, gamification definitely brings a lot of opportunities. So Gamification in the 5G era will definitely transform the whole landscape. I have no doubt of that. I think I'm very confident about this because you're able to see how the 5G infrastructure can contribute to to teaching and learning. I think it's so fluid. It'll be very smooth. It will not have any latency, probably the lowest latency as possible. And this gives lots of opportunities for more training to be done for this skill. The skill to be able to also, like, if this is being told, being explained from the context of design, but if you look at it from the context of ICT, they would also see this opportunity, how it complements all the different disciplines as well. So students can actually enjoy your lessons with 5G, definitely, because as I've always repeatedly mentioned, smoothness is definitely guaranteed. So you'll be able to look at different effects, enjoy their devices, use these devices to create content. And that's also another key phrase, content creation, because content creation will become a new thing for skill training. So even if you can create 3D content, create 3D meshes, create VR environments, create and design environments, how do you employ tools for virtual reality, VR head that can complement the VR headsets as well, haptic controllers, and so on. All this technology will make educators and students to become content creators. So again, another opportunity to apply gamification, because with content creation, you can create original content and you can also invent new ways to apply your pedagogy as well. So applying this will be definitely the essential skill. It is probably number one skill for new educators. So chances are you can create a gamification itself to be a course, and under gamification there can be different specialization as well. So there are many opportunities for this. So and remember, it's also non-geographically dependent, because you can actually, with 5G era, we're looking at enhanced mobility. You're able to access your content from any location. So I say it's non-geographically dependent. So by doing so, you're able to connect and reach out to distant learners from very far away, and who really want to connect to their teachers. They want to hear their teacher's voice, but not just that. They want to interact with their teachers in a virtual environment. And this is an opportunity to include some game elements. But perhaps some of you may not want to use game elements, but you can't help but using that online, because it's much more effective, especially now with the online classroom. Gamification will definitely increase the engagement. Otherwise, some students will say it's very boring. They want to have a bit more fun. They want to enjoy their class. So finally, yeah, endless opportunities for gamification. The 5G era, with the 5G era, you will be able to explore new territory, explore new worlds, travel to places where you never traveled before. And that's the beautiful thing about the exploration of skill training, because you can always discover new approaches to trying to get new expertise into the field. And there's so much demands now in the market, in the industry, especially in the creative industry. What I can see, the demands are increasing. So yeah, I hope that all of you educators can be more inspired to get new understanding for new equipment and more understanding in this medium, and also perhaps find some new insights. What I explained is probably quite general, but um, much of it is through experience, because I have been doing this on my own a lot in my classrooms, and I have been recognized a number of times for my effort. So I'll be very glad to exchange information with any one of you if you're willing to email me. And yeah, here's my email address right here. So feel free to email me and we can discuss and we can connect online. And I would love to share information with you and also learn from you. Perhaps you can also teach me. You know, I really enjoy connecting with other educators, and it'll be a great pleasure of mine to do so. So this is my presentation, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this recording, and I hope that I've made some sense to you. And yeah, feel free to connect to me um, anytime, and I bid you all the best in your future undertakings. And thank you, dear audience, for listening. Thank you very much, and take care.